welcome on in to another episode. Well, the first episode of Getting Wild with Terry and Friends, football edition. The day is finally here that we are going to break down some football. So we will go division by division, and we will give you our thoughts, futures, opinions. We will give it all. We'll start with AFC East. I'll bring up the poll. I asked on the Twitter account, who will win the AFC East? 84.2% said the Buffalo Bills. 0% said the New England Patriots. 5.3% on Miami, and 10.5% on the New York Jets. So that was the results from that poll. And I will now bring up my stats sheet that I created. I created one for each division. Yes, they are colorful, but I will kind of break it down here. So 2019 season, 2020, 21, basically the last 3 years for each team. You have their wins, losses, ties, win percentage, record versus division, record against conference, record against other conference, points for, points against, and whether or not they made the playoffs. So that is the results from the last 3 seasons. And then on this side, we have win total. Buffalo Bills, 11.5. New England 8.5. Miami, 9. Jets, 5.5. Each team to make the playoffs, not, division, conference, and Super Bowl win. So that is basically the chart. So I will kind of start here and give my thoughts briefly, and then turn it on, and we'll kind of just go each person. And if someone has something they want to add after, feel free. But basically here, Buffalo to win the division, minus 225 favorites. I think that's about fair. I think they are definitely the favorites to win this division. They've won it the last 2 years here. I think New England, Miami are both going to be pretty close in the standings. I think they will be pretty close, but Buffalo, I think, will have 3 or 4 more wins. They will kind of lead the division the whole year. Miami, New England, probably almost around 500 each, in my opinion. The Jets, I have here probably going something like 5-12. I think they improved a little bit from last year, definitely from the year before. But I don't think we see a 7-9, or it would be 7-10 record this year. I don't think they are quite 500 yet, but I do think the Jets will improve a little bit. May not really show in their win total, but I think they'll be more competitive in games. And I think the Buffalo Bills will win that division. Bryant, what do you think here about the AFC East?
I kind of just all boils down to the Bills. I've already put in a futures bet on the Bills. I know it's chalky. I got it at minus 225. I think that's almost as close to a lock as you'll get. But for me, what I went out and did is I want to try to find some value and look at the rest of the division. Early returns on the Patriots without Josh McDaniel. And with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia back in New England, is that the offense looks horrible in training camp right now. That doesn't really give me any confidence that they're going to magically just flip a switch and unanimously be the second best team in this division. And so what I went ahead and did is I went ahead and just put in a play on my book for the Miami Dolphins to finish second in the AFC East. It was at plus 195. I just put a little something down because I think that ultimately the Dolphins will end up maybe just missing the playoffs, but I think that they'll definitely be the second best team in the division. I think that's really the only value in this particular division. Because I don't see anyone competing with the Bills, barring some just catastrophic injuries. And the Pats didn't draft well enough. and I don't trust Mac Jones long term. Coupled with the fact that the Pats coaching staff got worse because they lost McDaniel. So those are my plays and my picks in that division. I think there's value also in backing the Jets here and there. I think Zach Wilson's going to take a step forward. I think they did improve the talent level in that team. I don't know if they'll necessarily be great, but I think there's going to be a couple of chances throughout the season to hop on a backdoor cover or hop on a cover for the Jets and let them sneak in and backdoor some teams for you. So those are my plays and thoughts on AFC East.
All right. Dave, AFC East, what do you think here?
Yeah, this definitely is the easiest one. The Bills are just the most complete team in the NFL. I mean, there's very few spots where they have issues. I mean, even to their head coach, which is great. It's their division to lose. It's their Super Bowl to lose, which is actually kind of a tough situation to be in at the top of the mountain, having to fight everyone off. But I don't see any team in the NFL really anywhere near as good as the Bills, even the Rams, in my opinion. And then it's the other three teams. I mean, Jets aren't even worth mentioning and haven't been forever since the 60s. Joe Namath was there. And then Tua is kind of a mixed bag. I've never been a Tua fan. I don't think, and I'm also not a big Kyler Murray guy, even though he's kind of shined. I see him kind of in the same two spots. He's already getting hurt, which is a horrible sign. Miami did, they got Tyreek Hill, and they do have that other stud Waddle from Alabama. But there's also sort of a dark cloud over the organization too, with what happened with the past coach. And I'm not sure they're going to do all that great. And then the Patriots, when I'm talking about these two teams in tandem, is they're either going to be 2 or 3, and I don't think either of them make the playoffs, so it doesn't really matter. The Patriots are going to be on a real down year, but you still have Bill Belichick. And he finds ways with nothing. Think about the receivers he's had and how many Super Bowls he's won. He's had Randy Moss, and then the next best guy was Wes Welker. And they had the dude Tom Brady, obviously. But they don't have a very strong defense that's middle of the road. Their offense is middle of the road, too. Their O-line is middle of the road. Mac Jones is a question mark, but they have Bill Belichick. So I think it's the Bills and everyone else, and 2 or 3 is either Miami or the Patriots, but I don't think it matters. I don't think any of those other 3 teams are relevant in the playoff situation.
All right. Nick, your background leads to believe that you may disagree with a little bit of Dave's thoughts there, but what do you think?
I mean, how can you not back this legend right here? Good old MILF hunter, Zach Wilson. No, I don't think they're going to compete for the division or anything crazy like that. 22-1 if you do think so. But I could see the Jets potentially being similar to the Bengals last year, a team that was in last place, that was projected to finish dead last, and you could have gotten plus money for them to finish anywhere from first, second, or third. It's the same thing with the Jets here, 22-1 for first. Obviously, I think the Bills still win this division. $650 for second and $350 for third. So as long as they don't finish last, you can make some money betting all 3 of those. I think that this is a spot where either the Patriots or the Dolphins finish last in the AFC East this year. I'm not particularly high on Tua. I think the Dolphins are overrated. And I think that the kind of the magic with Bill Belichick, we can always come back and the Patriots win 10 games this year. But I think this is a division that it's the Bills to lose. But don't be surprised if the Jets finish second in this division. I love the over 5.5 for the New York Jets. I thought they drafted really well. They got a couple good weapons on offense now. They got a good defense. I like their head coach, Robert Saleh. I think the Jets are a team, because they're the Jets, they're going to get slept on a little bit here. But, yeah, for me, obviously the Bills are going to win this division, but I wouldn't be surprised if the sleeper team in this one is the Jets.
All right. I think the Jets will be more competitive, but I don't really think it's going to translate too much into wins. But that's just my opinion. We'll move on to the AFC North, and I will bring up the poll results for that one. 50% said the Baltimore Ravens would win. 43.8% say the Cincinnati Bengals. Nobody thinks that Cleveland will win, and 6.3, so probably 1%, and one person took Pittsburgh Steelers. For me, I think it's pretty fair to say that the Bengals and the Ravens will probably be battling for this division title. I don't see Pittsburgh being anywhere involved in the race. I look for them to take a big step backwards here. But I think the Bengals will once again win this division. I'll bring up the stats. So Baltimore won in 2019, Pittsburgh in 2020, Cincinnati in 2021. So if you're going by the standings here, a different team wins every year. Could it be Cleveland? I don't think so. I have Cleveland coming in third here, a little bit above Pittsburgh, but I think they'll take a step back from last year's 8 and 9. Even 11 and 5, even when the Browns have had a good roster, they just still find ways to mess it up. When you look at the win total and playoffs, there was no odds for me to put down on Monday when I did this, basically because of the Deshaun Watson uncertainty on whether he will have his 6-game suspension or whether it will go longer. So that is to be determined here. I think Bengals win the division. You can get them to win the division at plus 190. Baltimore is plus 155. I think either of those are the top looks. I would not recommend the Cleveland Browns at plus 300 or Pittsburgh, obviously, at plus 1,000. I think the Bengals once again win this division. I have them with a 2-game lead over Baltimore when all is said and done here. Bryant, what do you think here in the AFC North?
Yeah. I think for me, this division kind of comes down to a couple of things. Obviously, you have to sit there and try to figure out, okay, so what's going to happen with Deshaun Watson? It looks like, just based on how things have taken place, that they're going to try to get a longer suspension. So I think that eliminates the Browns from winning the division. The Steelers are going to be in the Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, Will Anderson sweepstakes next year, I believe. They're tanking. They're going to be horrible. So it ultimately ends up being the Bengals and the Ravens. And I actually like the Ravens here, man. They had a lot of freaking injuries last year and somehow remained very, very competitive despite that. The wide receiver thing is still the wide receiver issue. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't really think that they addressed it in any way that was meaningful. Excuse me. But ultimately, Harbaugh and Lamar and a lot of those guys that were injured and out of action last year are back. I think Mark Andrews is one of the 3 best tight ends in the league. And ultimately, I think that's kind of where I'm at with it. I feel like there's a gritty team. They got better on defense, had an excellent draft defensively as well. So I put my futures bet in already for the Baltimore Ravens to win the AFC North. I got it at plus 155. It's locked in. It's ready to go. And ultimately, I think that it comes down to that final division game between the Ravens and the Bengals. But yeah, I think that's my safe bet. I think you can lock Pittsburgh into the finish fourth in any capacity. I'm sure you're not even going to get plus value for it, but I think that's like almost a foregone conclusion because even if Watson doesn't play, I think they have Brissett, who's a pretty serviceable NFL quarterback. So he'll keep the Browns from touching the last place of the AFC North. So, yeah.
All right. We're going to come back to Dave and we're going to go straight to Nick because while Brian was giving his thoughts there, talking about Pittsburgh, Nick had some interesting facial expressions, so I figured we will throw it right to Nick here, and I'll quickly bring up the odds. Pittsburgh to make the playoffs is plus 350. Do you think that's possible, Nick?
I think Pittsburgh could be a 10-win team this year, honestly.
You don't believe that. You don't believe that.
And I think that Ben Roethlisberger retiring is addition by subtraction, because that guy was a liability last year, and this team still made the playoffs. Yes, I get it. The Ravens are going to take a step up. What I'm saying is at 10-1, you got to look at the Steelers, because Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season with this team. Even when half the year they had Mason Rudolph and Josh Dobbs starting half the games, this guy still carried them to a winning season. You can't just count out the Steelers like that because they have a new quarterback. Mitch Trubisky, I think, is going to be a serviceable quarterback, and this is going to be a top 10 defense. I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers is a great value here for the AFC North, honestly. I think the Bengals take a huge step down because they massively overperformed last year. I think that all of us can say that the Bengals overperformed last year with the way they played. They had the same odds as the Jets to win the Super Bowl this year. So keep that in mind. They were, I think, 125-1, the Bengals. They weren't supposed to do what they're supposed to do there. Big step down from the Bengals, and I think Steelers stay the same of where they are. I think that the Steelers are a 10-win football team, and they are going to compete for this division title.
Nick.
So 10-1 for the Steelers to win the division would be my play in this division.
Man, Nick, don't do this, brother. Don't do this, man. Don't do this.
All I'm saying is people are going to sleep on the Steelers just because they have a new quarterback in here. And I think Mitch Trubisky is better than people think he is. And he was given a shitty situation in Chicago.
Oh, my God, man. All right,
I have to respectfully disagree. When Detroit says Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season, I think this will be his biggest. I think this will be his biggest test. I think
he doesn't even have to have a losing season this year, and he can still miss the playoffs, though. You know what I'm saying? We got 17 games now, so he can finish 9-8, and they still won't make the playoffs.
And then Lenny and Nick both say step back. Nick says a big step back. I will say this, so you can clip it. Bengals will finish with a better record than Pittsburgh. If I can bet that, I will definitely hit that prop, because the Bengals will definitely finish with a better record than the Pittsburgh Steelers, in my opinion. We'll go to Dave, and then if anybody else has any thoughts after that. Dave, the AFC North, what do you think of this one?
Okay, the Steelers are actually my second favorite team. And by the way, when I say my favorite team, first is 49ers. I can always bet against my team. You guys have seen that on the baseball show. I can say this. There's some clear-cut things about the AFC North, and there's some interesting things. And one is the Steelers. Now, I do not like Mitch Trubisky. I think one of the biggest blunders in NFL history is Mitch Trubisky over Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sold on Trubisky at all. I don't think he was good with the Bears because they were bad or good. It doesn't matter. I hate him starting for the Steelers. Mason Rudolph is kind of whatever. He's a placeholder. I wouldn't mind him starting instead, get rid of Trubisky and building up this Drew Pickett guy. And it is a rebuilding year. But the thing is, the Steelers are one of those teams like the Patriots that just win when they don't have much and they sneak into the playoffs. They played Ben Roethlisberger to the last breath. I mean, he almost couldn't walk. The guy was just immobile. And they had a bad offensive line. But it's coming up for the Steelers. They still have a good defense. They have one of the best coaches in football. They have a great running back. Who knows where they're going to go? They're going to win the division? Absolutely not. But they could be a dark horse to make the playoffs. I wouldn't bet on it, but it's a possibility. I also kind of think the same thing of the Browns, too. The Browns have one of the most talented teams in football. It's just that quarterback spot, and I didn't like Baker Mayfield either. But they have some of the best probably the best running back core in football. They have a great offensive line. They have a good defense. They have studs up front on the defensive line. They're just going to have this black cloud, and they're also one of the worst run teams in football too. So it's unfortunate, wasted talent. But either of those two teams could sneak into the playoffs maybe if things kind of jumbled around. But it is the Ravens and the Bengals at the top. I'll start with the Bengals because they're going to finish second in the division. They, in my opinion, they're going to have not only a hangover, I think they caught lightning in a bottle. When you watch them play, I mean, they've got great players, great receivers, good quarterback, good defense too. But every single situation went their way. And I don't know how they got so far with their quarterback getting tagged so much. That made no sense to me. Well, Burrow got destroyed, and he made it all the way, and he wore his stupid shiny necklace and did all those commercials in the Super Bowl. But they're a good team, but I don't think they're better than the Ravens. They're not as well coached as the Ravens, and the Ravens are in it every year. I think the Ravens are a sneaky team to go to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. They're getting no respect. They won 8 games last year when their second-string quarterback was limping along on his last leg. They find a way to win. That Harbaugh is one of the most underrated coaches probably ever in NFL history. They're getting back Lamar Jackson. I don't know why people don't still – I mean, he's still Lamar Jackson. What do they think he's going to change and not run the ball, become a pocket passer? Their running back situation isn't great, but it's serviceable. But we all know they're going to come play defense, and they're going to get to the playoffs. I think the Ravens win the division, and I think the Ravens make a real big push into the playoffs. And I think also, too, I'm not a big futures guy. I don't like tying my money up for that long. But the Ravens over is would be one if I did bet that.
All right. One thing we haven't really talked about is injuries, because obviously we're giving out all of our thoughts right now. But football is, I think, safe to say, the highest injured report sport that there is. There's people getting injured all the time. So that's something to keep in mind. I don't think Lamar is going to stay healthy all year. That's kind of my opinion. That's something that's kind of leading me in the opinion, too, that the Bengals will win. I'm not saying I'm using that as my reasoning, but it is something I took into my capping, that I don't think Lamar will stay healthy all year. But like I said, injuries all over the place. You never know what will happen. Does anybody have anything else to add about the North?
I would say that I don't disagree. Who knows if we haven't found that he's injury prone yet or not. He's like Carson Wentz, we know is injury prone. Lamar, we don't know for sure. And also Lamar's a running quarterback. Carson Wentz just puts himself in stupid situations. But we could say that it's Lamar's likely to get hurt, but it's also to say it's very unlikely that Joe Burrow won't get hurt, getting crushed as much as he did last year. So I think injuries do come into capping, but there's no way, unless you're so injury prone like a Carson Wentz or an Andrew Luck or someone like that, or Steve Young when he got concussions, it's hard. I don't disagree with you, but I think Joe Burrow could get hurt too.
Yeah, really anybody really could get hurt. Bryant, Nick, anything else to add in before we move on?
No.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right. I will say Cincinnati added some pieces to the offensive line in free agency and in the draft and stuff like that. But like you guys said, I think the lightning in the bottle is the best way to describe part of Cincinnati's success last year. I don't know if it's sustainable. They have some pieces for it to be sustainable, but you got to see it before you can claim it as sustainable. So that's ultimately kind of where I kind of determined that I'd rather just go with the safer option there and take the Ravens to win the division. So,
all right, we'll move to the AFC South, and kind of interesting results here in my mind in the poll. I didn't quite expect it to be like this, and 70% say the Indianapolis Colts, 17% say the Tennessee Titans. 11.8% say the Houston Texans. Nobody believes in the Jacksonville Jaguars. Poor Jaguars. I do not think Houston and Tennessee should be close to each other in this poll. I think Indianapolis and Tennessee should be close to each other in this poll. I think Tennessee's being a little bit overlooked. And I have them winning this division again. For the third straight year, I believe. I will bring up the stats here. Second. So we talk about injuries. The Indianapolis Colts are a running back injury away from not having a winning record at all. I think other than their star running back, that's basically all this team really has. You're adding Matt Ryan as your starting quarterback. I don't expect anything really. I don't expect them to be a better team with him than they were last year. Tennessee, I think we can expect another 11-6. I have them being 11-6 this year. I think a plus 170 to win the division. There's definitely value there. I wouldn't look at the conference. I don't think they're as good as the Bills, but I do think Tennessee will once again win this division. And I actually think that Jacksonville will finish ahead of Houston, just slightly. I think both teams are going to be pretty bad, but this is going to be a Titans and Colts battle for the division title. But I think that the Tennessee Titans are being overlooked a bit, in my opinion. Bryant, what do you think here in the AFC South?
Yeah, I don't. I understand the rationale with the Titans possibly being overlooked, but I'm off the Tannehill boat. I can't ride the train anymore, and I think that finally the Colts took the step and got a quarterback that is definitely better than Tannehill and Matt Ryan. And I've got the Colts already locked in as the division winners for the future for the AFC South. So I got it at minus 135. I'm gonna ride it out. I just think that they're the most well put together team in the AFC South. They have the least drama about them, and I think. Obviously, they have to prove it on the field, but offensively, defensively, they got Jonathan Taylor, who I think is a very relatively safe choice for Offensive Player of the Year or someone you want to sprinkle some money on for NFL MVP. I think that's an option as well. But yeah, I just like this top to bottom. I think that they're the most complete team in that division. I think the Texans are going to surprise a few people in the AFC. They're gonna steal some coins. They did it last year with some of their backdoor covers and stuff like that. I see it happening this year. Davis Mills might be something. Don't know yet. But yeah, and I think you got Doug Peterson and in Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence. Very good combo. I think that'll be good for the kid and his development. I think ultimately if I had to pick a final standings listing, I would probably go with the Colts, Titans, Jaguars, Texans. But I think that the Texans will probably beat. They have like the best shot to beat all three of the other teams ahead of them, just because of I don't know, it's just something about their style, and they've got a bunch of just gritty guys who are at the end of their careers or just trying to find and make a way and so on and so forth. So that's kind of what I've capped and what I've seen across the AFC South. I like the Colts to win the division, and I think that the Colts also could very well get to the AFC Championship game.
All right. The Houston Texans to make the playoffs is plus 1,600. If there was anybody out there that was interested in that.
If you just want to donate, you can just donate to a charity.
Jacksonville is plus 450. So there's a huge difference between Texans at plus 1,600, Jacksonville at plus 450, which is kind of surprising, I think, the difference in the odds there. But Dave, the AFC South, what do you think of this one?
Okay, answer this in 3 seconds. Name any other player on the Texans besides Brandon Cooks or Davis Mills. Go. Okay, Houston's going to be the worst team in football. That's why. No one. I mean, they're probably the second worst run organization. They might be the worst run organization with the Browns. They have no players. They've stunk for a while. They've done nothing to help the situation. Davis Mills had a couple games where situations where he did well. The problem is he has no one around him, and they haven't put anyone around him. And it might be a hangover from the Deshaun Watson deal. I don't know, but Texans are definitely fourth here. The Jaguars, they're not a great team either. I mean, let's see Trevor Lawrence in his second year. Let's see Urban Meyer gone, who is not a good NFL coach at all. It's like Nick Saban. He should stay in his place in college. And then went on and got Christian Kirk for, a guy that Sunshine can throw to. But, they're not going to do anything. I think they definitely win more games in Houston. I'm not going to even go – I didn't even look at their schedule and go down it. They're not worth looking into, in my opinion. But I think the Titans are overrated. And I've never been a Tannehill fan ever. Let me ask you this. Actually, I'll get to that the next team. But he's not a great quarterback. Derrick Henry, if we're talking about injuries and injury-prone positions, and if that's going in your capping, a running back's going to be it. And the type of injury he got isn't an injury that's easy to heal from. So we'll see how that goes. They also have a bad offensive line, and that's crazy with how good Derrick Henry is. But they're ranked 28th in passing pressure. So they're just not a great offensive line, and their defense is good. But I think they're another team that kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and they got exposed in the playoffs. I think the Colts, and the question about the Colts is, with me, take away last year's Super Bowl. Would you rather have, if you could have your choice of a guy, would you want Stafford coming from the Lions or Matt Ryan coming from the Falcons? That's not a rhetorical. What would you guys pick?
Neither.
Okay, if those were your two choices, I don't know either, but I definitely lean Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan's a perfectly serviceable older quarterback. He comes from a situation which they need the Colts need to pump up their passing game. They've got a great running back, but also, by the way, Michael Pittman's no schlub. He went to USC. He might be an elite wide receiver, and this offensive line, anyone can run behind them. They have top 10 offensive line, and their defense is kind of middle of the road. But I think the Colts win. That's just my opinion. I think Tennessee really won't have a shot. I don't see them getting the playoffs. I think the Colts are the only team in this division that go to the playoffs, in my opinion. There's too many good other AFC teams.
Interesting. Yeah, Tennessee has made the playoffs 3 years in a row, so you think that will end? I don't know if they made it previous to that, but they've made it in the last 3 years. We
were just talking about the Steelers maybe sneaking in, and that would mean that 3 teams out of that division are going to the playoffs. So what are there, 4 wildcard teams? Are there three wildcard teams now?
That's right? Not even talking about the next division we're talking about.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. There's so many better teams in the AFC than the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, I can't see it because personally for me, I think all the division we've talked up to this point, with the exception of AFC North, they're one-team leagues because 2 teams at minimum have to come out of the AFC West.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah. We'll get there in a second. We'll let Nick talk about the AFC South. You can already tell from his reactions that I'm definitely on an island by myself with Tennessee, but that's okay. We'll see how the season goes and see what happens. But Nick, AFC South, what do you think here?
Yeah, when you bypass the what I think are the top 2 teams in the AFC with the Bills and the Chiefs, the Colts are my pick to win the Super Bowl this year, 25-1. For value-wise, obviously, I'm not going to go to the Bills at 6-1, 10-1 with the Chiefs. No, thank you. The Colts are my pick to win the Super Bowl at 25-1. I think they massively upgraded from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. I think Matt Ryan is a huge upgrade, and he needed to get out of Atlanta anyway. They have the best running back in football in Jonathan Taylor. They've got a improving offensive line, one of the better offensive lines in football. They've got a decent wide receiving staff, and I think their defense is going to get better this year as well. And keep in mind, they also play in arguably the easiest division in football. I think that they should sweep the Texans. They should sweep the Jaguars. And at worst, they split with the Titans. I think the Titans are not only the most overrated team in this division, but in football. This is a team where their defense is not going to be very good this year, the Titans. And I think Tannehill is one of the more overrated quarterbacks in football. Who is carried by Derrick Henry, which he can easily get hurt. I have a feeling in a couple of years from now, we're going to be talking about Derrick Henry similar to the way we talk about CMC, that this guy gets hurt every year because he gets overused, because that's what happens when all you do is turn around and hand the ball to Derrick Henry for 300 times a year. He's going to get hurt. I don't care if he's an absolute unit. He is going to get hurt. So Not only do I think the Colts win this division, I think potentially with their strength of schedule, they get the number 1 seed in the AFC and they go to the Super Bowl potentially this year. I think that the one thing that was truly holding them back last year was Carson Wentz. And we saw that last year. Upgrade in quarterback play. This team is a team to be reckoned with. They are a sleeping giant in the AFC. The Colts are my pick to win the AFC and the Super Bowl.
All right. How dare you compare CMC to Henry?
I'm saying Derrick Henry is going to get hurt a lot, just like CMC does. Because when was the last time Christian McCaffrey played a full 16-game season?
Is he saying that like CMC's better than Derrick Henry?
I mean, Derrick Henry's one of the best running backs. The both of them are really good. I think
You don't
they're
see
top
cowbell
5 each.
running backs. You see a million CMCs. You don't see cowbell running backs like Emmitt Smith and Barry Sanders anymore. Derrick Henry's a guy who goes in the one gap and just runs you over. He's way more. He's a number 1 running back in the NFL as far as pure running backs go.
I was just comparing those two by how many times they're going to get injured over the next.
Oh no, I saw the comment down there.
Yeah. No, he said, how dare you compare it? I was only comparing them injury-wise.
I got it.
Like,
Yeah,
I think Derrick Henry, that injury is going to be very injury-prone the next couple of years. And when they lose Derrick Henry, that offense sucks.
Yeah.
I went to look back at it. I don't know exactly when he got hurt, but Titans did win 4 of their last 5 games in the season. And between that, like they did well when he was out. So I don't think even if he does get hurt, I don't think. But that's my opinion. We're all allowed to have our opinion.
They're also missing their only their AJ Brown's Gonzo. So who does Tannehill have to throw to? And now, like I mentioned, that offensive line's the 28th worst pass, versus the pass rush. In
They won 4 of their last 5, but they did it against Jacksonville. They lost to Pittsburgh. They beat San Fran. Okay, that was a decent win. They beat Miami, which was not great, and they beat Houston. I mean, you play cupcakes, you beat cupcakes. So those were the perfect teams to play without Derrick Henry.
Yeah, especially the Niners. They played the same type of run and then defense.
Yep.
But in the end, you can't choose who you play against. So
of course,
no.
Like,
but I'm just saying those were the perfect teams to not have Derrick Henry for.
All right. Well, we will see what happens, whether or not he stays healthy, whether or not Jonathan Taylor stays healthy, and what happens with the quarterbacks. But we will move on to what I think is the most interesting division in all of football this year, the AFC West. When I did the poll here, Kansas City and Vegas tied 29.4%, 23.5% say the Chargers, 17.6% say the Denver Broncos. And I agree with the poll in some aspect. I think this is going to be the closest division in all of football. I think all 4 teams will have a winning record. I think this is going to be an insane division. I think I'm going to be backing a lot of these teams week after week, especially when they're not facing each other. At least I will get to the sheet here. The AFC West, Kansas City has won the last 3 years. 12-4, 14-2, 12-5. Denver, 7-9, 5-11, 7-10. So Denver obviously has had a losing record 3 years in a row. Chargers, I think, can be considered a disappointment last year, finishing 9-8. I think people expected a lot more from them. And Vegas Raiders is my pick to win this division. I have Vegas finishing 11-6, tied with Kansas City, 11-6. And then Chargers and Denver are both tied 10-7. I think this is going to be an incredibly close division throughout the entire year. I will bring back up these stats here. To win the division, Vegas is plus 650. Kansas City plus 175. Chargers plus 220. Denver plus 260. But Vegas is plus 650. So I think there's a ton of value with Vegas. I'm not saying that they're the best team in this division. I think any one of the 4 teams could win this division. But when you strictly look at value, there's a ton with Vegas here. So that's who I would take. When you're looking at to make the playoffs, Kansas City minus 210, Chargers minus 200, Denver minus 145, Vegas plus 160. So maybe I'm wrong, and I see Vegas as a better team than they actually are. We'll hear your guys' take, but I think Vegas has a chance to win this division, and I will definitely be backing them, and I will definitely be backing these 4 teams quite often throughout the year. Bryant, what do you think here about the AFC West?
I am going to vehemently disagree with the Raiders. I don't see it with the Raiders. They basically wasted an entire draft class. I think it was a 2018 draft class. Whatever the case may be, that entire draft class basically like is either in jail or out the league. Like it's just they've struggled. They have struggled. Yes, they pulled off the trade for Devontae Adams. But ultimately, I don't see it, and I don't see it in Medeo as a head coach. So I can't get behind the Raiders being the division winners here. But to each their own, and best of luck to you regardless. However, I didn't pick an outright winner for this. Well, I guess I technically did, but I have the Chiefs and the Chargers as the top 2 teams in this division. It was plus 220. That was the finishing order. So the finishing order was the Chiefs 1 and the Chargers 2. That's the way I see it happening. I think Herbert takes that next step and gets his team to the playoffs. I see all these lists about him being like in this upper echelon of quarterbacks and all this yada 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 yada. I don't really think you can say that unless you've won a playoff game or even just gotten to the playoffs. Period. But I do think he takes that step this year. It's going to be hard, and I think that the AFC West is absolutely going to bludgeon themselves to death. I think that the winner of this division, in this case, I believe it is still going to be the Chiefs. I think that they're only going to come out of here with like 11 wins max. But yeah, I just see this as a grinder of a division. Got a couple different contrasting styles, offensively, defensively. Excuse me, we just had a loud crack of thunder. If you heard that. But yeah, no, I think ultimately this division kind of boils down to the quarterback play. It's probably the division with the best quarterback play in the entire NFL, top to bottom. All of these guys are damn good QBs in their own right. But I can't bet against Pat, Eric B, and Andy altogether still. Yes, they lost Tyreek, but they still have Travis Kelce. The offensive line is still there. And I think that loss to Cincinnati left a really bad taste in their mouth. I think that they'll make the necessary plays. I think they have the depth and the understanding of how to get there that'll carry them over the finish line. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm going to be backing a lot of Chargers overs, though. Team total overs and first quarter overs as well. They started off hot last year. A lot of the times they came out the gates slinging the ball around. It's the quickest way to get points. It's the most efficient way to get points as well. They were good at it. They added some more weapons. Yeah, so those are just a few things that I'm interested in backing and stuff as we go forward. So,
all right, Lenny agrees with me on the Raiders. Interesting. Dave, the AFC West. Do you agree with my statement that this is probably the closest division for all 4 teams?
I'll say this: I think the Chargers and the Chiefs are leaps and bounds better than the Raiders and the Broncos, and I'll get into that. But one thing Bryant said is this division's going to eat itself alive. And even though probably I would say the Chargers are probably the second most well-rounded team in all of football, this division will not have the number. Obviously, the Bills are, well, not obviously. I think the Bills will be the number 1 seed in the AFC. I don't even think the number 2 seed. This might be an 11-win max or a 10-win max. I mean, it could get crazy in this division just because of the matchups, not necessarily, which team is better. They know how to play each other, and weird shit happens too, especially with the Chargers. But I think the number 3 seed in the AFC comes out of this division. The Broncos, automatic step up with getting Russell Wilson. That's kind of it. I don't know why there should be any more expectation than that. Just do better than last year. The Raiders, there's a lot of hype around them. They got one of the best wide receivers. That's great. They have a stinky defense. They have a really stinky offensive line. They haven't paid their tight end. And there's some issues with Josh Jacobs, with where he's at with the team. Derek Carr is a good quarterback, definitely an underrated quarterback in my opinion. But I think the Raiders finished 3rd. The top pick, in my opinion, are the Chiefs and the Chargers. Now, the Chiefs have an edge at quarterback. Their defense is awful. Even though we saw their defense at the end of last season randomly rattle off like an average of 8 points allowed for 5 games, it was just kind of a weird thing. And that's just a product of having a great head coach. So, Mahomes and Andy Reid, they're going to compete. They're going to go to the playoffs. Do they win the division? I don't know. I think the Chargers are the most complete team. They have the best offensive line. They have the best defense. They have probably the best running back, and they have a up-and-coming, probably superstar in Justin Herbert. So I think the only thing is the Chargers are their own worst enemies. We've seen it for 20 years. We've seen it for their entire existence. Them go far and then do something stupid in the playoffs. I have a mantra. I don't bet against Bill Belichick, and I don't bet on the Chargers. So you won't see me having any games where I'm betting the Chargers. But if you're not me with my luck in them, and you bet futures or conference winners or division winners, I'd bet on the Chargers. That's my pick.
All right. Interesting. Nick, AFC West. What do you think?
Yeah, going back to Lenny's comment there, saying they all finished 3-3 in the division, which kind of backs up my next statement here. I think you can go ahead and bet all 4 of these teams under their season win total and go 3-1. You can take the Broncos under 10, the Chiefs under 10.5, the Raiders under 8.5, and the Chargers under 10, and you'll hit 3 of those this year because they are going to eat each other alive. And I think the winner of this division probably finishes with the 4th seed because of how difficult their division is. I still think the Chiefs win this division because they're the Chiefs, and as long as they have Patrick Mahomes, I think they're always, and Andy Reid, they're always going to be what should be the favorite in this division. I'm going to say that the Raiders finished last. I'm not sold on this Raiders team. Honestly, I don't like their defense, and I think last year was like their little. They overachieved last year because they went through everything that they went through with the Rugg situation and the John Gruden situation and a couple other guys getting in trouble, and they still made the playoffs. I think that they take a step down this season, and I don't think they make the playoffs here. So I think that if you go ahead and bet all 4 of these teams under their season win total, you'll go 3-1. I think probably the Chiefs win the division because that's kind of like the obvious answer, but I still think the Chiefs are the Chiefs. And I think all 4 of these teams just kick the crap out of each other.
Also, I just wanted to add, I'll be talking about this more as we get along the shows towards the season and during the season. But a player that you should watch out for if you want to watch out for some player props and stuff like that, Skye Moore of the Kansas City Chiefs. Very shifty, small receiver. Is going to probably slide into that Tyreek Hill role.
And Mecole Hardman as well.
Yeah, Mecole Hardman as well. Those are guys that I would target because they should have relatively low thresholds for over and under for receiving yards per game. Those are some guys that they're gonna spread the ball out a lot more than they ever did before because they weren't force feeding it to Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. Kelce's gonna get his, but they've got like 4 of the guys now that they're going to try to figure out who's going to be the go-to playmakers. And so Skye Moore is they think very highly of him, and the early returns on him in training camp have been pretty overwhelming. So just a heads up for people who are looking for player props and stuff like that as you get into the season.
Perfect. We will move on along to what a lot of people say is the worst division in football, the NFC East. The viewers, 52.9% say the Philadelphia Eagles will win the division. 29.4% say the Dallas Cowboys. 5.9% say the Washington Commanders. And Nick's two accounts both say the Giants. I'm just kidding.
I don't think I actually voted in this one.
But 11.8% say the Giants here. This division is a little bit of a tougher one. Like I said, I don't really won't be really looking to back these teams against the other conference. If you look at the last 3 seasons, not one of them has had a winning record against the other conference. They will be facing the AFC South. So they will be facing Jacksonville and Houston and Tennessee and Indianapolis. So we may see some more wins here against that division. But basically here, the Washington Redskins, the Washington football team, they're now the Washington Commanders. We will see what they're called next year. But I don't really think it matters what their name is. I look for them to possibly be at the bottom of this division. I think they finish at the bottom. I think the Giants finish just ahead of them. And then it's Dallas and Philadelphia kind of battling it out. Dallas last year, 12-5, the first time a team in this division had double-digit wins. I think that Dallas will finish with 11-6. Philadelphia 10-7 was my prediction. I do think Dallas to win the division is a good bet. It is plus 140. Dallas and Philadelphia, pretty similar division conference and Super Bowl wins. When you're looking at win total, Washington Commanders under 8 wins is minus 120. I wouldn't talk anybody off that. I think that's a good bet here in this one. Just looking at it myself. But yeah, I'm not really too high in this division. I will kind of be fading at least the Giants and the football team. The Commanders a lot. Dallas and Philadelphia I'll take when the spots are right. But not too much of an opinion for me with this division. Bryant, what do you think here with the NFC East?
Yeah. Oh man. Well, my team is in this division. I won't say who. I think it'll be pretty obvious as the season wears on. I don't really know what to make of this division because as many people have always pointed out, we haven't had a repeat division winner since 06-07. You just never know what you're going to get from the NFC East on a year-to-year basis. So picking a future bet for the division champ was really just me being a homer and picking my team. And that was about it. But I just don't know. And I don't even know what to expect from them in that regard. So I strayed away from getting too invested into future bets with this particular division. This is definitely on a week-to-week basis, seeing how things transpire over the course of the season. I think that Philadelphia is going to be a tough team though to beat. They improved defensively. I think that scheme that they run offensively with Hurts and running as a running quarterback and running his own read and stuff like that is going to get better and things of that nature. So there's a lot of different avenues and stuff like that for people to bet on the NFC East. I think if you want a safe bet, the Commanders are going to finish last. Carson Wentz is not good. He was never really that great in the first place. His team won a Super Bowl in spite of him, even when he was injured. So I think that that's pretty much the only thing that I know like for certain it's going to happen. Like the Commanders are going to finish last. But that's about it. Like I said, this is a week-to-week ordeal with the NFC East. There's just so many unknowns. The Cowboys have a lot of links missing offensively. Their defense is pretty much all returned. The Giants got a new coach, but they don't have a quarterback really. It's just so much, so many different things. So it's too hard to really cap it. So like I said, this is something on a week-to-week basis I'll be taking a look at.
All right. Dave, NFC East, what do you think about this division?
Yeah. A few things I want to say is probably going to not make people very happy. This is the most annoying division in all of sports because everyone thinks it's so relevant, mostly just the fans, because all these teams' fans are fanatical. And they really don't matter at all. They go decade by decade. Okay, so the Eagles won a Super Bowl. 10 years before that, the Giants were relevant for a year or two. 15 years before that, the Cowboys were relevant for a year or two. But every year the Cowboys are winning the Super Bowl, right? Dak Prescott's an elite quarterback, right? Zeke Elliott's an elite running back. No. They're good, but the Super Bowl champion's not coming out of this division unless it's the Eagles. And I'll get to that in a second. The Eagles are my dark horse. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because they made so many improvements in a bad division. They could sweep this whole division, in my opinion. But we'll go to the Commanders. Carson Wentz gets hurt. There's a black cloud over his head. That under bet's probably good. I don't do those. I already said that, so that's not a moot point. Daniel Jones for the Giants. I think this is his make it or break it year, in my opinion. Also, Saquon Barkley. Who knows how good this guy is? We don't know. He could be the best. He could be, the second coming of Emmitt Smith. We don't know because he's been hurt. So hopefully he stays healthy. The Giants know they're in rebuild, which I like that. There's kind of a realism about them that they know they're not going to be, barn burners. But when we get to who's better, the Eagles or the Cowboys didn't make any improvements anywhere and actually got worse because they're one of their wide receivers left. Dak is a good player. It's still yet to be seen whether he's a champion or not. And Mike McCarthy is dog crap. And he had his shine 10 years ago. He's not the right fit there. It's probably a Jerry Jones thing, which Jerry Jones is probably the reason why this team hasn't done much since the 90s. They're still a good team. They could win the division. I don't think they're going to. I think that the Eagles are the best team in the division. They got better everywhere. They had a fantastic draft. They went out and got their wide receiver. The Eagles are not known for drafting and breeding good wide receivers. They make bad decisions, but they went out and got the guy this time, which was a smart decision. The only question is the most important position on the field, quarterback. Jalen Hurts shows I disagree with that. Jalen Hurts shows flashes in the pan of greatness, of being a mobile quarterback, of being a bigger, better Kyler Murray, in my opinion. He just has games where he'll throw 4 interceptions too. But he's playing behind one of the best offensive lines in football. We saw how well the Eagles ran the second half of the season, and they've got a defense that's top 10 too. The Eagles are the best team in this division. Do they go to the Super Bowl? I don't know. They would be a dark horse pick. The odds are probably pretty good. Got to get past the Packers and the Rams, but I think the Eagles win the division. I think Cowboys come second.
I'm willing to put up money that the Eagles do not win this division. Just saying. Are you
a Cowboys fan?
I am.
Okay.
I am. I just don't see it with the Eagles, and it's fun. I can't wait, man. I love football. So
put your fandom aside and tell me how the Cowboys got better than the Eagles. What did they do to make their team better?
Well, they have the better quarterback. So that in itself is already
switch quarterbacks on each team. Who wins?
You said switch quarterbacks on each team and who wins?
Put Dak Prescott on the Eagles, or actually put Tyler Heineke on each of the teams. Which team wins? Put the worst quarterback in the league on each of those teams.
I wouldn't. It wouldn't matter though, right? Because if the worst quarterback is on either one of those teams,
because the Eagles would pound them.
They both suck.
Like what? Like no. Like what? Why would I put Taylor Heineke on my team? Like what is the worst quarterback proving? But nonetheless, I just don't see it with the Eagles. I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. I wrote about him. I'm an Oklahoma Sooners fan as well, so I know his game pretty damn well. I just don't see it as a quarterback, as a consistent passer day in and day out. I just don't see it enough. Not enough to win a division, and definitely not enough, obviously, to like win a multiple playoff games and so on and so forth. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting division. It's why, like I said, I didn't cap it, and I didn't put a futures bet in earnest for it. But yeah, I think we can all agree though that the Commanders are going to be the worst team in the division. The Giants are just being the Giants. I don't even know what that means. But it just definitely feels like it's going to be a Philly-Dallas race all the way into January. So,
all right. We will
It's
move
why it's
on.
hard to talk about this division with fans because I respect fandom for sure, but there are just things that are being said in the comments like the Eagles, the Cowboys defense is better than the Eagles. It's just things that are statistically wrong, but I get why there's that fervor because actually I'll tell you the truth about the Cowboys. When the Cowboys are good, it's way better for football, in my opinion. When the Lakers are good, when the Yankees are good, when the Dodgers are good, it's good for football when the Cowboys are good.
yep.
He's not ready for the pros. In the end, we're all entitled to our own opinions. And now we can hear the opinion from the New York Giants fan.
Yes.
Nick, the NFC East, are your Giants going to win the Super Bowl this year?
No, they're not winning the Super Bowl. This whole division's dog shit, though. I'll put that out there. This whole division sucks, and I think nine wins this division. That being said, 8-1 for the Giants maybe has some value.
No, it doesn't.
If Daniel Jones takes a step up and Saquon Barkley is actually healthy the whole season, if you're banking on that, I think the Giants can be semi-competitive. I like the way they drafted. They helped their offensive line, and they got a decent defenseman there with Kayvon Thibodeau. But this whole division sucks. I don't really want to get too much involved with it. If I had to place any type of bet, I'll take a long shot with the Giants because no team wins this division back-to-back years, and it's always a crapshoot, and 9 wins it. And I think I saw the Giants have the 31st most difficult schedule in the NFL. So I think they have a streak of 4 weeks where they get the Texans with the Jaguars and I think the Lions and some other the Falcons. So I think they get a streak of like that with 4 straight games. So I just think straight the schedule, maybe the Giants have a shot here. I don't want anything to do with this division now. This whole division's crap.
Yeah, I'll be fading most of the teams in this division, as I already said. Anybody have anything else they want to say before we go on to the NFC North?
No.
All right.
Jordan Davis, Defensive Rookie of the Year, probably.
All right. Going to the NFC North. I like the results of this poll. 50% say the Minnesota Vikings. 38.9% say the Green Bay Packers. Detroit Lenny voted for the Detroit Lions. And nobody has any faith in the Chicago Bears. So that is basically the results of that poll. But we will go on to the results here. Or not the results. We will go on to the stat sheet. The Green Bay Packers have won this division 3+ years. They've made the playoffs in 3 straight years. But finally, we get to discuss my team, the Minnesota Vikings. Last year, really the last 2 years have not been good for the Vikings. I am happy that we have a new coach. I think the new coach is a good thing for the Vikings. I think the Vikings lost way too many close games last year, and I will put a big emphasis on coaching. Zimmer, Kirk Cousins did not mesh well together. Am I a fan of Kirk Cousins? No, not really. But I think he will do better. He did play very well last year. Quarterback rating, statistically, he did play very well. I think Green Bay takes a little bit of a step back, and I think the Vikings squeak out this division win. Over 9 wins, minus 120. I wouldn't talk anybody off that. I think obviously they were 8-9 last year. They could have been 12 and 5. Had a few of those wins not been, or sorry, had a few of those losses not been losses. I know you can say that about any team, but they literally lost games in the last moments due to bad coaching, which I do not think will happen this year. Chicago, Detroit, I think they end up tied. I think they're both bad, and they both end up with a bad record. Obviously, this is a Vikings-Packers division, and we will see who can battle it out. Obviously, the Packers are the favorites, but I think the Vikings get them. And I think the Vikings win week 1 at home against Green Bay. So there is my early prediction there. Obviously, we have weeks to go. Before I go on to Bryant, if I have not mentioned it, we will have a Wednesday NFL show every Wednesday where we will go over the entire slate. Then we'll break down the football games Thursday, Sunday, Monday as well. But we'll have one show every Wednesday for football season once the regular season starts to go over each slate. But for me, it's the Vikings. Maybe it's a homer pick. We'll see. I'm interested to hear your 3 opinions on this division. We'll start with Bryant. What do you think here about the NFC North?
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no clue what to expect from this division either. I say that only in the sense that I don't really know what's going to happen with any of the teams. Yes, Aaron Rodgers is still here. The Packers are gonna somehow find their way to win the division, maybe, possibly. I don't know. I think the Packers will make the playoffs. But are the Vikings going to take another step forward under a new coach and find themselves in the playoffs? Do they win the division? I don't know. I was too unsure, and I'm still unsure about a lot of the parts with the Vikings and how that's going to mesh over the course of a full season. So I didn't put a futures play in. One thing I am very interested in is the Detroit Lions. They fought hard. Something about Dan Campbell and his energy and the way he motivates his teams. They played hard for that guy, and whatever the win totals for the Lions are set at, I am tempted to go over
6.5. Sorry to interrupt. 6.5 minus 120 for the over.
Oh, I don't know about that then. If it was at 5.5, I might be tempted, but I think that the Lions are going to be a developmental team. They're going to put together some good first half scares for teams, and they'll taper off in the second half. So that'll be something maybe to watch out for. But ultimately, this division kind of boils down to the Vikings and the Packers. The Packers have to figure out this wide receiver thing, and yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I don't really have anything to say about the Bears. The Bears are the Bears. They're horrible. They're not really doing anything to help build up and build around Justin Fields. I hope that he doesn't get hurt and it doesn't damage his psyche and his confidence long term. We'll see how things kind of manifest there. But I think this is a very clear 2-team race between the Vikings and the Packers. And I think this comes down to the last week of the season or so. And so that's it.
All right. You say that the Packers have to deal with their wide receiver. I think they should just leave it as is. I don't think they need to add anything. Leave their wide receivers as is. That's fine with me. Richie says Detroit will cover spreads. I totally agree. I think the Detroit Lions are going to kind of be like the New York Jets, where I think they're going to be better teams than they were, but I don't see it translating hugely when it comes to actual wins. I don't think they're going to be way better, but I think overall in their play and spreads wise, I think they'll be better teams and be closer into games. Dave, what do you think about the NFC North? Do my Vikings have a chance?
So I agree with a lot of what Bryant said. Pretty much right on the dot. The Bears, see, I was born in 1984. The Bears won the Super Bowl, I think, in 86. They went to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman. You guys might even be too young to remember that.
I do remember that.
Yeah, okay. So the Bears have never been relevant. I don't know what a relevant Bears team is. I don't even know what we talk about them. I know way back when they won the most championships before the Super Bowl era. They're also horribly run. They never give themselves a chance. They make bad decisions. They overpay people. That's the Bears. That's all I want to say about them. The Lions, I disagree with Terry. I think the Lions are a lot better than the Jets. I think the Lions get a quarterback and they become almost a contender, and that's weird to say for the Lions. DeAndre Swift's the man. I like him at running back. Their wide receiving core ain't that bad. I like Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's a USC guy. That's why I like him, but he's definitely a serviceable wide receiver. And their defense isn't all that bad. So the Lions aren't going to compete this year, but they're definitely a team to watch. They're interesting to me. And I want to see, and I do like their head coach. I want to see them do well. I don't know who wins the division though, because if you look on paper, the Vikings have the best team. I think the most well-rounded team. The problem is they have Tony Romo light at quarterback, Kirk Cousins, that is great for fantasy football. He'll sneak into the playoffs in the wild card and lose that game. Also do horrible in December, horrible in primetime games. He's probably going to become a commentator and a pro golfer, just like Romo too. But that's why I see Kirk Cousins. But the offense is stacked. I mean, they can score points. They can run up the point. There'll be a good over team for sure. And the Packers got worse. Obviously, they got rid of one of the best wide receivers in the league. And Aaron Rodgers is kind of going off the deep end, talking about doing mushrooms and growing out his hair. He's nuts, but it's still Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers might go down, and I don't know, piss any. He's a great quarterback, but he's going to go down as like a Dan Marino, as one of the most disappointing quarterbacks ever, because he should have won 2 or 3 more Super Bowls, in my opinion. He's had the teams for them, and it might have been the coach that they just got rid of. But the dude, here's the thing. The past 2 years, he's played like an MVP. So when you have that on your team, you're always a contender. So I'd have to give the edge to the Packers, but I could see the Vikings winning this division. I think both teams in this NFC are playoff teams.
All right. Nick, NFC North. What do you think here?
All right. Here's how we're going to do this. Give me the Lions to win at 10-1, 60-1 to win the conference, 151 at the Super Bowl. Jared Goff, 200-1 to win the MVP. Swift. Now that I've got Detroit Lenny riled up, let's actually talk about the division. I actually think there's value with the Minnesota Vikings here, and I wrote down every single possible future I could have done with the Lions there. That's what I was screwing around with. But no, I think that the Minnesota Vikings are very live to win this division. You're getting a good price with them. I believe that it's around plus 265, plus 270 for them to win this division. Because if you look, I believe they played the most one-score games last year, if I'm not mistaken. The same thing with the Lions. The Lions played a lot of one-score games as well. They had a lot of bad luck go their way. I mean, you just look at that one game with the Lions and the Ravens last year. Justin Tucker making, the 66-yard field goal to win that game, bouncing off the upright. That was the Lions season in a nutshell. But do I think that they're gonna have a better year? Maybe. Do I think they're going to be a playoff team? No. I think the Vikings would be my bet to win this division just because of the value on it. I don't think there's any value on the Packers to win this division, even though I think they probably do win this division by maybe a game or two. But for this division, if you're betting to the winner, it's got to be Vikings or nothing. There's no value in the Packers, and I'm sorry, Lenny, the Lions are not ready yet to win the division, and the Bears are. I have no idea where the Bears are. So, yeah, this for me would be Vikings or nothing if I had to bet it, and I think the Vikings could be a dark horse in the NFC as well.
I heard that the Vikings had like double-digit games where it was decided by one score.
Yep.
And would they finish 9-7 last year? Was it?
Yeah,
9-7.
I just switched to the next division.
I heard they could have been like a
8-9 last year.
Oh, 8-9. Okay, I heard they could have been like a 12-win team
if
things went one play or the other way. So the Vikings are legit. It's just whether Kirk Cousins is a champion or not. We'll see.
Yeah,
because Aaron Rodgers is, even though I make fun of him and call him Dan Marino, he's won one, and he can get you to the NFC Championship and then lose to my Niners.
Yes, he will have to rewatch Isaacs, but and then other people that are going to obviously watch a stream after the show will have to watch as well. We will go on to the next division here, and I wasn't surprised with the results of this poll. We have the NFC South. 86.7% say the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 13.3% say the New Orleans Saints, and nobody believes in the Falcons or the Panthers. And I don't disagree with them because I don't really believe in Atlanta or Carolina either. I have them as the bottom two teams in this division. I do have New Orleans as number 2. But back from his long retirement, we have the GOAT, Tom Brady. I know Tim is probably watching and is probably throwing up in his mouth as he hates Tom Brady with a passion. But he is the best quarterback, in my opinion, ever play the game. And even at his age, he is still a good quarterback. And I do think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are minus 250 to win the division for a reason. I do think they'd win the division. Minus to make the playoffs is minus 650, so no value there. Looking at their win total, 11.5. Over is plus 100 for them to get to 12 wins. That one's kind of interesting. I think that might be a sweat because I think they do finish with 11 or 12 wins. So I think that would be a sweat, but I wouldn't mind looking at the over 11.5 wins. One late addition that I do like for the Buccaneers is getting former Viking tight end Kyle Rudolph. I think that is a great last-minute addition. I can't wait to see what Brady to Rudolph looks like. So that will be an interesting one. But I think it's once again Tampa Bay's division to lose. Bryant, what do you think here in the NFC South?
Yep. I just want to get out in front and say that the Bucs are winning this division. We can go ahead and put that away. As long as Tom Brady is upright, they are winning this division. Next, you have the Saints and you have the Panthers. The Saints have a phenomenal defense, but they lost Sean Payton, who's been one of the better offensive minds over the last 10 or so years. And Jameis Winston is back. He's getting himself reacclimated. There's the uncertainty in the air about Alvin Kamara and how many games he's going to miss because of that incident that he had in the offseason. The Panthers got Baker Mayfield. It looks like he's running away with that job. That's where the battle for second place is coming in. Ultimately, I think it does go to the Saints. But I think, and this is me going on a limb here, I think that the Panthers are going to make things a little bit more challenging, though, for teams that are for the teams that they play against, because they do have a little bit better of a quarterback that can spread the ball around. He can make reads. I'm not saying Baker is the greatest, but Baker is better than Sam Darnold, clearly, very clearly. And we saw what he was able to do in Cleveland. It's a noticeable step up. So I'm going to be interested to sit there and see how I can find ways to back the Panthers a little bit, because there's not going to be real much value in backing the Buccaneers, because as long as Brady's healthy and that offensive line is put together, they're gonna be really hard to get value on unless you go for team totals and other things of that nature. So somewhere else in this division, you've got to figure out who you can bet on and who you can fade. So that's kind of all I have here. I have the Bucs win the division. I feel like that's pretty chalky. So there's really nothing too extraordinary to hand out there. But like I said, I kind of wanted to hop on the Panthers win total over. That's just something that I got a hunch about it right now. So as the preseason winds down, that's something I'm going to be looking into. But other than that, that's really it for this division. The Falcons are just comically bad. We may see shots of like people with brown bags at their games, like they used to do at the Browns games. That's how bad they're going to be this year. I think they're another team that's going to be in contention for the 2 top quarterbacks next year, and Will Anderson from Alabama. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right. Yeah, it's a 6.5 wins minus 110 for the Panthers.
Yeah, I might take that. I'm very, very strongly considering taking that.
7-10.
Yeah, I could with Baker. I mean, Baker led the horrible Cleveland Browns organization to the playoffs, man. Like Carolina had more in the cupboard in the cupboard than the Browns did when he came over there, man. I think that's a good bet. I'm gonna go look for that and try to bet it myself.
All right. Dave, the NFC South. Do you think Brady and the Bucks once again take the division?
So I agree with a lot of what Brian said, and I disagree with other stuff. By the way, the bags on the head, those were the Yanks. Those are the Archie Manning Yanks, the Saints from the 70s and 80s. But I think, what's the Falcons team total at?
1 second. Falcons is 5.
Okay.
Over plus 125, under minus 150.
Again, I'm not betting it. I think that team wins 3 or 4 games. They're stinky. I mean, there's really no. They got their best weapon is betting. I think it's betting on them, not betting against them. But they're a circus right now. They've got no one to hang their hat on. I think they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. The Panthers have college football problems, and that's which QB am I starting? They have two QBs. It's kind of like a Notre Dame, right? We're going to play this guy in this situation and this guy in this situation. I think Mayfield maybe is listed as the starter, but it's kind of funny. We have 2 players from the same draft. I think it was a 1 and 2 picks or 1 and 3 picks from the same year. They're in the 5th year of their contract, so they're the end of their contract. They're having to play for their careers. And while I'm a Sam Darnold guy, I think Baker Mayfield's better than him. I'm not big on Baker Mayfield. I think he's just a little bit better Johnny Manziel, a little bit more talented Johnny Manziel. And he will fade away, unfortunately. The Panthers don't have a hope in hell of beating the Buccaneers. I think they're 3rd. The Saints are interesting to me. If they had a quarterback, I think they'd be a contender. Their defense is going to be really good. The running game, 1-2 punch is really good. Jameis Winston's garbage. And then Andy Dalton's his backup, and then Ian Book. We saw what Ian Book did as a 3rd-string quarterback last year. Just got trounced by the Dolphins. So they probably finished 2nd. They'd be a contender if they had a quarterback. And then obviously the Bucs have Tom Brady. As long as they have an offensive line and that guy has one leg to stand on, he'll be great. And probably the only value you're going to find in them, this is what I agree with Brian, is the only value you're going to find is in the playoffs or in the Super Bowl when everyone says he's too old to win it, and he does. So if the Bucs get to the Super Bowl, go ahead.
I think it was just Echo.
Oh yeah. The Bucs. If the Bucs go to the Super Bowl, I'm betting Tom Brady every time because he just defies logic.
For sure. Nick, NFC South. Show us your jersey and give us your pick.
Yeah, I'm rocking what I think is my sleeper NFC team. I think that if Jameis Winston stays healthy, unlike what he was able to do last year, and plays a full 16, 17 games, this guy can lead the league in touchdowns and be a dark horse to win the MVP. The last time he did start a full season, he led the league in touchdowns. We're not mentioning the interceptions. If he can change that, this New Orleans team could be legit. I think they're going to have a top 5 defense. We'll be talking about them giving up less than 20 points a game. I'm already looking at that Falcons team total under 17.5 for the first game of the year, like stuff like that. I think that this is a good Saints team that's defense wins championships and defense wins games and stuff like that. Their defense, I definitely want to back game in and game out this year. I think they're going to be very dangerous. They are my sleeper pick, and I think there's value on them to win the division. I think Tom Brady could take a step down because he is getting up there in age. We'll see. But if when it comes, I know I've said a lot of crazy teams Like I would say I would take a shot with like the Steelers and stuff like that. When I'm looking at divisional futures, I'm not looking to take minus 200 with the Bucks. I'm not looking to take the Bills. I'm looking to find value, and I think there's value here with the Saints at that number. I like the Saints over 8.5 wins. The Saints are the team that I would look to back in this division before I would even think about laying, 200, 300 with the Buccaneers to win this division. So value-wise and sleeper-wise, the Saints are a team that I think can make the playoffs and be pretty sneaky this year.
All right.
I just looked at the depth chart because I was thinking about. I still don't think definitely the Saints. If the Saints got Baker Mayfield, even though I'm not high on him, I think that'd be a big improvement over Jameis Winston, just in my opinion. But you know where they're listing Taysom Hill at what position?
Probably tight end.
Backup tight end. I don't think they found a place. I mean, he's not in the running backs. He's not in the wide receivers. He's not in the quarterbacks. So I don't know if that means
he's a Swiss Army knife. He does everything.
Well, I know that, but it's just a weird place as a second string tight end. He's listed, which kind of makes me scratch my head because I thought he was a starter somewhere.
I'll definitely look at some Taysom Hill anytime touchdowns this year.
Lenny says this is Brady's last year playing football. Saints defense ends his career. I think Brady has another 10 years in him.
I was going to say, how do you bet against that? They've been saying that for 10 years.
And what Nick just said is totally correct. Last year, I was just really starting to get into it, but touchdown props. I'm going to be really getting into them this year. You're going to hear me give out Justin Jefferson a lot when it comes to Minnesota, but I will definitely be hitting the touchdown props for a lot of different teams. I'll be looking at them really heavily going into next year. We'll jump into the final division. We have got to the final division, the NFC West. Kind of like the AFC West. I think this division will be somewhat close. Not as close as the AFC West, but 58.3% say the Rams will win. 25% say the 49ers. 16.7% say the Arizona Cardinals. And nobody has any faith in the Seattle Seahawks. How I look at the Seattle Seahawks is they had their time in the sun, but unfortunately that has ended. They are, in my opinion, the worst team in this division. I don't really think it's quite close anymore. They do still have some offensive pieces, but they just aren't going to be able to compete in this division, in my opinion. When you're looking at it, Arizona, plus 125 to make the playoffs. Rams and the 49ers both minus 250, minus 225. So the odds makers seem to think that Arizona will take a step back, maybe going more towards their 8-8 year than the 11-6 they had last year. The Cardinals were a frustrating team for me to bet on last year. I kind of agree with Dave about Kyler Murray. I'm not really too fond of him. When it comes to this division, I think it is between the Rams and the 49ers. I think the Rams win it again, but I'm not superly confident in it. I don't really have too much opinion in this division that much. I think the 49ers are a good team. I think the Rams are a good team. I don't think the Seahawks are, and the Cardinals are a bit of a wild card. Not really sure what to make of them. Bryant, what do you think here about our final division and NFC West?
For me, it's the Rams win this division. I'm not too worried about anyone competing elsewise in that regard. I put in a future for them to win. Is at plus 125. I don't know why it's plus money, unless I'm missing something here. I feel like it should have been closer to like minus 125, I guess.
They think the 49ers, like it's really close between the 49ers and Rams, so I guess they think it's a close
that's
race.
Crazy because they're starting a rookie that basically didn't play at all last year. Like Trey Lance is the guy now, but he didn't play at all. Yeah, so I got the Rams to win this division. As long as Stafford stays healthy, I think that they'll cruise to the division title. I'm interested to see how the Cardinals bounce back with everything that's taken place this offseason with Kyler Murray's contract and the clauses and video games, and he needs to study more on film and all this stuff. And Cliff Kingsbury is on the hot seat. I think this is possibly his last year coaching the Cardinals if they don't get any meaningful results. So yeah, like I said, I think this division all centers around the Rams. I think there's going to be a lot of higher scoring games between the Rams and the Cardinals. I think those are both over teams, just based on the offensive weapons that both teams have. I cannot wait to double up and fade the absolute crap out of the Seahawks in any which capacity. I might double up on games and go first half spread and full game spread for them to lose. Drew Lock is just not good. They have nothing. Their offensive line was crap for years when Russell Wilson was there, and he was able to mask some of that. Drew Lock is not that type of guy. I think they're going to be in for a rough season. I think the 49ers they'll be middle of the pack. I think that they are a talented team, and I think Trey Lance is going to be a good quarterback long term. I just don't see them competing with the Rams this year per se. So, yeah, I think it goes Rams. Gun to my head, I would probably say Cardinals. But I would not discount the 49ers from surprising some teams and playing competitive all season long. Shanahan just knows how to scheme offensively. He showed that in the playoffs this past year. But yeah, I've got Trey Lance. I can't wait to use him in some of these player props with the dual threat ability. So we'll see how that works as well. Kyler Murray's in that same vein. But other than that, that's pretty much it. They also are going to be another week-to-week team, or division, just kind of seeing how the division shapes up on a week-to-week basis.
All right. Dave, our final division, the NFC West. What do you think here?
Yeah, it's sad to see the demise of the Seahawks and also Pete Carroll's at the end of his career. One of the best coaches, one of the only coaches that can go to play in college and be the man and win championships and then go into the NFL and win. Even Nick Saban couldn't do that. So shout out to Pete. But they always leaned on other parts. When they didn't have an offensive line, they leaned on Russell Wilson to run around. When he wasn't doing so well, he was hurt, they relied on the defense. They have nothing. The only thing they have is DJ Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf. One of my favorite players to watch. But I'm actually seeing Geno Smith as the starting quarterback. I didn't even know he's still in the league. They're bad. So that's all I'm going to say about them. The Cardinals, they got rid of Christian Kirk, who I thought was a good wide receiver. Here's the problem with Kyler Murray. Besides being too short, he might have been the only guy that was under 6 foot that could be a great quarterback. He makes horrible decisions. Horrible. He needs to learn how to get sacked. He tries to make things happen, and that's when his team – when the pressure's on, he knows it's on. He just can't get it done. They track him down. He tries to throw it. He throws an interception or he fumbles it. And the coach is not good. Cliff Kingsbury can go away. So I don't think the Cardinals don't have a chance either. I think they're going to – I don't know what their win total is. I'd say they're going to be – they're going to be – this division also is cannibalistic too. There are teams that will just beat other teams. It doesn't make any sense. Like the Seahawks still beat the Niners every single time, even though the Niners have a superior team than they do now. I'm not talking 10 years ago when Richard Sherman was there, but the division is up to 2 teams. I'm definitely going to say, and I'm a Niners fan, I'm definitely going to say the Rams are a better team. They probably win the division. The only thing, and there's really nothing more to say about the Rams, except I'm still not a Matthew Stafford fan. I think he fell in the perfect situation with all this stuff around him, with the head coach and all this buzz in a new stadium. He kind of caught lightning in a bottle too. We'll see how well they do. They're still a good team on paper. But the thing about the Niners, and Brian was saying he doesn't know about them, the only thing that changed for the Niners is the quarterback and Tart on the defensive back. Everything's the same. George Kittle's healthy. Elijah Mitchell's healthy. They didn't have a healthy running back. And, oh, by the way, with this same team, they went to the NFC Championship with Jimmy G, who I'm not a fan of. So I can't say how well they're going to do. They could actually – Trey Lance could be a bust. I don't know how he's going to do. But if he's equal to Jimmy Garoppolo and everything else equal, this team's a wild card team. They're going to the playoffs. I don't know how far they go. I definitely won't beat the Bills if they go to the Super Bowl. They might not beat, the Packers or someone like that, even though they did. Also something to say too, the Niners go way back when, 30, 40 years. They have a history of beating the Rams too, even when they're not as good of a team. Happened back in 2000 when Warner was there. So it's just, this division's very odd that way. But I guess if I had to rank it, it's Rams, Niners, they're both going to playoffs, and then the Cardinals and the Seahawks.
All right. Nick, finish us off here. NFC West. What are your opinions on it?
Yeah, this is a weird division. I mean, probably the Rams win this division again. If you're looking for value, I believe you can get it for like 300. The Cardinals to win this division. If you're looking for not the favorite, I think that they're
plus
400. I mean, Kyler Murray is a wild card where he can be very good or he can be very bad, and if he's very good, this team can win the division. And then with the Seahawks, the only time I'm really looking to back them is I know I'm going to back them week 1, at least on the spread against Denver, if not money line. But this is a division that I don't know. This does have a very cannibalistic division feel to it as well, where you can see these teams beat up on each other a little bit. But for me, this is, I guess, if you're looking for value, the Cardinals. But I do think at the end of the day, the Rams probably win this division again.
So you don't think Russell Wilson beats his old team? Well,
No.
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I just think that game is just an overly public spot on the Broncos. It's the highest bet game so far, and it's I think I've seen the highest amount of money going in on the Broncos. So that's going to lose, and it's a primetime game.
All right, there we go. There's an early pick for week 1. That is our season preview show. If anybody else has anything else they want to throw out before we end the show, feel free. No? All right. Best of luck to everybody. We will quickly finish off the chats. Do the Seahawks have an RB?
Rashad Penny.
Rashad Penny. Yeah.
He's like the guy that you use in fantasy football as the flex when on your bye weeks. So that's
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
In Detroit, Lenny agrees with Seattle week 1.
Yep.
But that is the show. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, smash the like button. We appreciate all the support. Tune in 4 p.m. Eastern, Monday to Friday, Saturdays noon, Sundays at 1, and the NFL show will be Wednesdays at some time. We'll kind of figure it out closer to. But best of luck to everybody on your bets. And football's back. Super happy. We'll see you again. Have a good one, guys.